and welcome. This is part 1 of the Skulduggery Pleasant series. Let's get to it. First up, reading of the Blurb, the iconic first book in the best-selling Skulduggery Pleasant series. Stephanie's Uncle Gordon is a writer of horror fiction, but when he dies and leaves her his estate, Stephanie learns that while he may have written horror, it certainly wasn't fiction. Pursued by evil forces, Stephanie finds help from an unusual source, the wisecracking skeleton of a dead saucer. The skeleton of the dead saucer is basically going to be one of our main characters, Skulduggery Pleasant, after whom the whole series is named. So her Uncle Gordon was a writer, a very rich and popular one apparently. He used to write horror fiction, but it wasn't fiction as we get to know. More about this in the summary. Stephanie's Uncle Gordon is there and she's at his estate. She's spending the night alone there when all of a sudden a man comes knocking at her door. And he's asking her for some unusual and mysterious key that we don't even know of. What could it be? And that's exactly what Stephanie is trying to find out. And the man is going to kill her if she doesn't hand over the key. That's when our main hero, Skulduggery Pleasant, bursts in through the door and he starts throwing fireballs and all sorts of weird magical things. The bad man is gone and Skulduggery is a skeleton. He is actually being held together by magic. He can talk, walk, do all of his actions just because of magic. Stephanie obviously cannot just stay still, right, after something like this has happened. She threatens Skulduggery to take her and show her more of this magical new world. Later, they meet China Sorrows. China Sorrows is the most gorgeous woman in the world, and also she's kind of their informant. She knows many things and like the latest rumors and gossip, I guess. So Skulduggery suspects that Stephanie's Uncle Gordon had the Scepter of the Ancients. The Scepter of the Ancients is the most powerful weapon ever. It's indestructible. It has a black crystal in the center. It's actually fueled by our own anger and emotions. That's why Skulduggery suspects that Nefarian Serpine has actually killed Gordon just to get the scepter. Most people actually don't even believe that the scepter exists. But Skulduggery thinks that it does exist. But Skulduggery actually suspects that Serpine is behind each and everything. So no one really takes him that seriously because Serpine had actually killed Skulduggery's original family during the war. The war was this great war between Malevolent and the good guys. Skulduggery's family had died because Serpine killed them. That's how even Skulduggery died. After meeting China, Skulduggery and Stephanie, they decide to head back because Stephanie needs to rest. She's really young. She's 12. But on the way, again, the bad man is back. And this time, even deadlier. Yeah, this time Skulduggery isn't able to help Stephanie. So Stephanie manages to get rid of the bad man by jumping into a canal. But what happens is that slowly, this bad man, his body starts to disintegrate like paper. That is because he's actually immune to fireballs. So being immune to fire means that a large amount of water would be absolutely and totally lethal to you. That is how adept magic works. So basically, there are two schools of magic, elemental and adept. Elementals basically, manipulate and control the elements, whereas adepts, they are more into focused disciplines like necromancy, controlling the shadows, or like mind reading, looking into the future, teleportation, all of these things. Stephanie and Skulduggery, the next day, they decide to visit Ghastly Bespoke. Ghastly is Skulduggery's friend and is a tailor. To know more about the Scepter of the Ancients, they need to get into the family vault of Ghastly. It's basically a vault inside the vault. The vault is this highly guarded safe, if you could call it. Unfortunately, Ghastly does not think it's wise for Stephanie to get involved into this whole thing, so he does not allow them to get into the vault. That's why they have to break into the vault. Breaking into the vault happens later. First, Stephanie and Skulduggery need to meet the Elders. The Elders is a council of 3 who are basically like their rulers for the Irish Sanctuary. Irish Sanctuary is basically like the Irish government. They also don't think that Stephanie should get into this whole thing, but once Stephanie has made up her mind, she's definitely gonna do it, no matter what happens. And after breaking into the vault, they don't really find anything of much importance. And later, when they get back, Skulduggery has been kidnapped by Serpine. Stephanie doesn't know what to do, because Skulduggery is the only one that she could have relied on. Skulduggery had told not to, trust China. Ghastly was pissed off with her. The Elders were pissed off with her. So there's no one in the magical world that could help her. Stephanie has to depend on China. China sends word, but Stephanie doesn't think that it's enough. She thinks they should go in and rescue Skulduggery as fast as they could. China then uses Stephanie's given name to control her. So basically, each and every person has 3 names. First is your true name. Your true name is the name that gives you all of your power and all of your magic. It comes directly from the source. We don't know what that is, but then you have your given name. That's the name that's given to you at birth. And then you have your taken name. Your taken name is basically like a shield for your given name. So if anyone knows my given name, which is Cherie, they'll actually be able to control me. If they say like Cherie sleep, so I'll directly have to go to sleep. I don't have a say in the matter at all. But if someone knows your true name, that's even more dangerous, since they can, you have absolutely no say in the matter. Sometimes you can actually fight back against being controlled by a given name. That's when Stephanie Edgley turned into Valkyrie Kane. And yeah, that's a pretty great moment for her. Later, Stephanie decides to go visit Ghastly, since obviously China is not gonna help. Ghastly informs the elders and they realize that the truce is broken. The truce was basically this agreement that after the war with Malevolent was over, both the sides would actually not, hold grudges against each other. That's what has happened. Serpine has kidnapped Skulduggery, thus he's broken the truce and shattered into little pieces. So now, Tanith Low, Ghastly Bespoke, Valkyrie Kane, and 2 cleavers go rescue Skulduggery. And after they rescue Skulduggery has finally solved the peace. He knows how to get to the scepter. That is because Gordon had actually left him some pretty great advice in the beginning of the book, which is kind of written here. You can read it, give you a moment. That's the advice that he's been given, and he solves it because Beryl, who is Stephanie's aunt, had actually gotten a brooch from Gordon. It wasn't even that great of a brooch according to Beryl. So he realizes that the brooch is actually the key to getting to the scepter. Valkyrie unhappily agrees to go get the brooch from Beryl. Later, they trust this information about the brooch to Mr. Bliss, who actually betrays them. Valkyrie and Skulduggery go to stop Serpine. Unfortunately, one of the things of the crystal of the scepter of the ancients is whenever an enemy comes approaching towards it, it starts to kind of cry and shriek like a babe. Somehow, it did not shriek when Valkyrie got close. The ancients had actually decided to steal the scepter from the faceless ones. That time, it did not cry. So basically, the faceless ones were lunatic gods, and China comes to their rescue. China, out of all people. Nefarian Serpine still has the scepter. They try to track down Serpine, but then they get to one of the old discarded places, and there they find some medical procedure that had actually happened. Unfortunately, they don't know what it was. Yes, so Cleaver comes in. He's not wearing the usual grey uniform. He's wearing something like this. He starts to attack Skulduggery, Valkyrie, Tanith, and Ghastly. Unfortunately, Ghastly has to sacrifice himself, turning into a statue. This is actually the use of the Earth Power. The Earth Power is the worst and the most deadliest. It actually turns you into a statue, but you don't know for how long. It could be decades, years, centuries, or it could just be like 2-3 days. Skulduggery is kind of really saddened by this, since Ghastly was one of his only friends. So later, Skulduggery figures out what does Serpine eventually want. He wants the Book of Names. The Book of Names has the names of each and every person in history. True name, given name, taken name. Since Serpine worships the Faceless Ones, he wants the Faceless Ones to enter his reality. But only a few people know about this. Obviously, by threatening them with the scepter, it won't do any good because they could actually choose to die. That's why he wants the Book of Names so that he can read the names off and force the person to listen. To do this, they actually have to, kill the elders. Because the elders' will, apparently, protects the Book of Names. It's a mental barrier that you need to get past. And that's why 2 of the elders are killed. Morwenna Crow and Meritorious are killed. The 3rd elder was the one who had actually betrayed them, Sagacious Tome. He sided with Nefarian. Unfortunately, Nefarian killed him off as well because the barrier wasn't weak enough. And now, the final battle takes place. Tanith against the White Cleaver and Skulduggery and Valkyrie against Nefarian, Serpine and Mr. Bliss, who had betrayed them. Bliss was just a double agent who actually secretly was working with them. That's what happens. That's the final battle. I'm not going to reveal what's next because that's the mystery. Now for the review. In a heartbeat, I just give this book a 10 out of 10 because the story is so well written. The whole Skulduggery universe of cleavers, mages, elders, elementals, adepts, a dead skeleton, and then a girl who's just swept into all of this. The scepter. It's just so interesting and intricate to me. I mean, I'm totally in love with this book and the whole series. The whole plot twist, the betrayal, the sacrifice by Ghastly. My favorite character definitely has to be Tanith because she's so strong and powerful. The China Sorrows thing, China and her brother Bliss, they are brothers, and her laid backness. Is that a word, laid backness? Then Skulduggery is these fireballish things. The stuff that this series and the whole book is made of is the best. I've come back to this book about 10 to 12 times and I love it as much in each and every read. And I think that you should definitely read this. Thanks so much for sticking around until the end and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!